All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. As I'm sure you've heard, Brittney Griner has been released from Russia, and we have traded her for Viktor Bout, the Merchant of Death. Yes, it sounds bad, and it's just as bad as it sounds. Now, I want to talk about this because it's being talked about a lot, and the public opinion seems to boil down to pretty much this tweet right here. Meet Brittney Griner and Marine Paul Whelan. Both Americans, both were convicted in Russian courts on dubious charges, both serving multi-year sentences in Russian prison. Brittney hates America. Paul served America. Guess which one Biden traded a terrorist to free? Semper Fi, Paul. Now, like I said, this is very interesting because I've seen people who are on the left or vote Democrat or apolitical, and even they seem to think that we made a bad decision. I've seen more people, I've heard more people thinking we made a bad decision doing this than people thinking we made a good decision doing this. But we're about to get into this video right here. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe while you're watching. Now let's roll it.
Who know him tell CBS News he lives up to that scary name.
The notorious arms dealer Viktor Bout, known as the Merchant of Death. His story inspired the 2005 film Lord of War, starring Nicolas Cage.
I supplied every army but the Salvation Army.
What should people know
They made a movie about this guy.
about Viktor Bout?
Mr. Bout was a major threat to our national security, and someone that we considered a grave enough threat that we poured a massive amount of resources into an investigation to apprehend him.
Former DEA agent Robert Zaharias-Shavitz was part of an international team that captured Bout in Thailand 14 years ago. The arms dealer was later convicted on federal conspiracy charges to kill Americans and supply weapons to a terrorist group. Zaharias-Shavitz told CBS News a swap for the arms dealer would put Americans at more risk.
I believe we're sending the message that it is good business to deal in the capturing, kidnapping, detaining of American citizens.
Wow.
I just don't think this is the right way to go about it.
What he said at the end was very powerful. And I think other nations are looking at us thinking that it's easy to negotiate with these people. We can get whatever we want. You know, the Merchant of Death, Viktor Bout, is not someone you give away. It's not someone you release for Brittney Griner, for an NBA star. I know a WNBA star. I know she has a semi-high profile, and the only reason for her profile really rising as high as it is because she was captured. But we got a terrible deal. We got a terrible deal here. Not only are we putting Americans in danger, we putting the whole world in danger. This guy, you heard it there. I delivered weapons to every army except the Salvation Army. Now, that probably isn't a direct quote from him. Nicolas Cage said that. But that's the type of man he was. And we just gave him away for a WNBA player. That was not an equal value exchange. I think the Biden administration saw this as an opportunity to gain votes, as they always are looking to secure. And they pulled the trigger on this trade. And I think they made a terrible mistake.
When you hear about all the terrible things Bout has done, it makes you wonder, will he go back to a life of crime now that he's a free man? I called up a Russian history expert at North Carolina A&T to get his thoughts. Dr. Thomas Porter says the arms dealer is really not a threat anymore.
I think so, because he could be arrested again. He certainly would not be extradited from Russia, but if he were to get back in the game, so to speak, he'd have to use surrogates and all these people have been murdered and put in prison. I think he's just going to retire.
So Griner was arrested back on February 7th.
So let's talk about that. I mean, that guy thinks that this guy the Viktor Bout won't be able to get back in the groove of what he's done before. But I mean, with Russia being as aggressive they are right now, with Russia literally being in a back and forth war with Ukraine, I think Putin and Russia could have some use for his expertise. You never know. I don't know how things go in Russia, but to give him back to Russia at a time like this, it was a dumb move.
17th. In all those months since, a prisoner swap could have happened at any point, but it didn't. So why now? The Russian expert from A&T gives us insight into Russian President Vladimir Putin's mind.
I think Putin took the opportunity to conclude this deal because he's just now becoming aware of what a quagmire he is involved in his special military operation in Ukraine. He's finally getting unfiltered intelligence and getting, real-time, realistic appraisals of the situation, and he needed some kind of victory. And so I think, and in fact I know, that the Russian press is playing this up as a major accomplishment to get this merchant of death, Victor Bout, back from the United States.
Before now.
Well, whether he thinks it's whether the media portrays it as a big win or not, it was easy for the Russian government to decide on this trade. They gave up Brittney Griner. They probably didn't even care about holding her anyways. I think Brittney Griner was just there. They would have held her. They would have held her there for the full 9 years to use her to leverage against the U.S. And it was an easy trade for them. They didn't lose anything in losing Brittney Griner. They gave us back someone who didn't even like our country to begin with. And we gave them back an arms dealer.
Now Putin's just sort of been surrounded by yes men, correct?
Yes, he was not getting any realistic information about the situation at the front, and he was a prisoner of his own ideology, his own.
I think this is a bit irrelevant for what we're talking about. I think they got some audio of Paul Whelan talking in the end. I want to get that.
100,000 troops.
Well, Brittney Griner isn't the only American serving time in Russia. Former Marine Paul Whelan has been behind bars since 2019, saying that he was abused and harassed in prison all of that time. The White House tried to get him as well, but President Biden said Russia just wouldn't budge because of the different type of charges that he's facing. Griner was convicted of drug charges. Whelan was arrested on espionage charges.
Sadly, for totally illegitimate reasons, Russia is treating Paul's case differently than Brittney's.
Paul Whelan himself spoke with CNN after learning of Griner's release. He said he was disappointed not to be included in that deal.
This is a precarious situation that needs to be resolved quickly, and I would hope that he and his administration would do everything they could to get me home, regardless of the price they might have to pay at this point.
Whelan's family said
Exactly, regardless of the price that they'd have to pay, because we just paid a hefty price to get this girl Brittney Griner back home. You know what I mean? We just paid a huge price, one that could affect the entire world if he decides to get back into doing what he was doing before he got arrested. But another thing I want to talk about is I seen on Twitter people throwing this out there that Trump could have got Whelan out and that Trump didn't do enough to get Whelan out. But we just heard that Whelan was caught up in 2019 and Trump was on his way out during that time. Biden has already had more time to get this guy out than Trump had. So that's not a valid argument. And besides, Biden is the president now, so to go back and deflect to Trump is pointless. That's not going to help this guy. That's not going to help Paul Whelan come home. So let me know what you guys think about in the comments down below. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe on your way out the door. Until next time, you guys, I'm out of here. Peace.